Hi everyone, today's lesson from Unit 4.1 is all about finding the volume of a prism or a cylinder. Volume is defined as the number of cubic units contained in the interior of an object. So, in other words, we're trying to figure out how many little cubes would fill up a particular type of prism or cylinder. So volume is obviously measured in cubic units. We can write this as, say, cubic centimeters or centimeters raised to the third power, centimeters cubed. Our first theorem for today is how to calculate the volume of a prism. Now the formula is just pretty simple. It's volume equals capital B times H, where the capital B stands for the area of the base. So one thing, it's a good skill to learn how to draw a prism. So what we're going to do is start by drawing a rectangle, and then draw a second rectangle congruent to the first, and then what you do is you connect the corners to make it three-dimensional. And to make it look even more three-dimensional, what you can do is make the lines appear to be dotted lines. Those would be the lines that you can't see in the background. So if I just erase a little bit. Okay, so we've got some dotted lines. I don't like the way that turned out, but we can deal with it. So, for example, if this particular prism is 2 centimeters wide on the base and 3 centimeters long on the base and 4 centimeters high, then we can calculate the volume. So before we actually calculate the volume, though, we need to mention that the bases of a prism are parallel. Now, it's not such a big deal in this particular prism because what we have here is a right rectangular prism. That means all pairs of opposite sides are rectangles. So we can use any two sides as our bases. Now, the sides that I'm going to choose as the bases in here are this piece where the prism is resting, okay, on this side, and then this would be the base opposite to that one. Okay, so when we go to calculate volume, we're going to do so by using our formula. So volume equals the area of the base. Well, our base is a rectangle, so we're going to take 2 times 3 for the area of the base, and then multiply by the height, which is 4. So multiply 2 times 3 gets 6, times 4 is 24. And because we're talking about volume, the units will be centimeters cubed. So what that means is that if we had a container with these dimensions, and we had a bunch of little cubes that are each 1 centimeter on the edge, then we could fit 24 of those cubes into that container. Okay, now we're going to practice in 2 examples. So for the first case, again, it's a right rectangular prism, so the volume equals area of the base times the height. Our base is this rectangle right here, so we would find its area by doing 4 times 2. Then the height of the prism is 1.5, so we're going to multiply by that height. So 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 1.5 will give us 12 centimeters cubed. Now, in the second example, it's kind of an odd shape, but what you do when you have kind of a different shape is see if you can divide it into one, or divide it into 2 or 3 or 4 separate prisms. So if I just put this line right here, then we have the prism on the left, which I'm going to call number 1. So we're going to say the volume of prism 1 can be found by taking this side length of 2, because it's on the base, times this side length, which would be the depth of the figure, which is 1 inch. So for the area of the base of that prism, we're going to do 2 times 1. Then we have to multiply by the height, and the height of that section is 5 inches. So you get a total of 10 cubic inches. Now keep in mind that's just one part of our picture. So next we're going to find the volume of this section. So since this piece was 2 inches long right here, I would know that this is 5 inches. Here's another way we know that it is 5 inches. So for the volume of part 2, the prism on the right, the area of the base would be 5, the length, times 1, the width, and then the height of the prism is just 2. So we find out that it also has a volume equal to 10 inches cubed. The total volume then would be 20 cubic inches. Final answer. In our second theorem, finding the volume of a cylinder, and we're always going to have right cylinders, so the side will be perpendicular to the base. So the volume of a cylinder is found by using that same formula, the area of the base times the height, but now we have a base that is in the shape of a circle, and the area of that base would be found by doing pi times r squared, and then the volume, you would find it by multiplying by the height. So instead of doing area of base times height, we're going to do pi r squared h. Okay. So in our second example, it says find the volume of the cylinder below if the radius is 3 inches and the height is 2 inches. Start by writing down your formula, pi r squared h, and then plug in what you know. We were given that the radius is 3, so we want to do pi times 3 squared. Then we'll multiply by the height, which is 2. 3 squared gives us 9. 9 times 2 gives us 18, so put the 18 out in front of the pi, and then put your units on the end, which would be inches cubed. So 18 pi inches cubed. Remember, if we leave an answer in terms of pi, it's an exact answer. Okay, good luck on the CYU and your homework. Please make sure you speak up if you have any questions.